In this video today, I'm going to show you how to appropriately use a weightlifting belt. Reach! Okay, ready? Okay, reach, blah, blah, blah. All right, so this is actually exactly how not to use a weightlifting belt. And if you're not sure why, I'm going to tell you why. So first, I'm going to go over why this is a problem. Number two is what you can be doing instead. And number three is how to properly use a weightlifting belt and when. Okay, so first and foremost, why is this wrong? Because I cannot expand my abdomen here. If I try to breathe and use my natural weightlifting belt here, I literally cannot. This is cinched down so tight that I can't expand my abdomen. And how the core works is through expanding your abdomen, called the core ABCs. And if you're curious more about that, you can check out the video that we're gonna have in the corner here, okay? So this impairs my ability to create intra-abdominal pressure here, and that pressure is what stabilizes our spine. And if I can't maximize it, then I'm not able to create a solid anchor point from where my legs and arms create power. So I'm actually creating a cap in how much I can lift and also exposing myself to some injury. So this is a really, really poor way of doing this. So first and foremost, don't suck it in and cinch it super tight. We actually need to do this differently, which I'm going to show you in a minute. So tip one is don't suck it in and cinch. Please stop doing that. When in reality, most people, we don't need a weightlifting belt because we should really learn how to use our natural weightlifting belt first, which we can use through our breath mechanism. And so a belt we can use to help us with that is called the Core360 belt. Now this belt, what this does is it stretches and expands. It helps us teach us how to expand in our abdomen to create that ideal intra-abdominal pressure, which is how our core stabilizes. There are 4 points on here that go into the abdomen. I'll show you here. I'm going to Velcro it on. I have 2 points in the front. They're just half circles or half spheres. And there's 2 in the front, and then there's 2 in the back side. Okay, and so what does this do? This belt replaces me from taking my fingers like this and breathing into my fingers. So a lot of times when we teach breathing for core stability, we use this, and we want to be able to breathe and expand 360 degrees into our fingers. But this is a problem when you're weightlifting. Right? So I can't lift this without my hands. So we can use this Core360 belt instead because this gives us feedback. And when I breathe here, I can feel my abdomen expand into all 4 quadrants, or at least I should look to be able to do that if I can't. Okay, so what I would say is using this belt, or if you don't have a belt, you can take like an exercise band or something and wrap it around you. But ideally, you want to be able to stretch that out. So when lifting something, rather than using a weightlifting belt that's going to impair your ability to use this, we can use this to train our ability to use this natural weightlifting belt well. So what I'll do to lift something, as opposed to squeezing for dear life and holding my breath, we want to hold a brace. So we can use the belt this way. We'll breathe, we'll brace by bearing down, hold the breath, and lift, especially if it's heavier load. So what it would look like is like this. I'd go down for the weight, I'd breathe here, bear down, and let go. So that's a great way you can use your natural weightlifting belt when you're at heavy loads, but you're not at, say, your maximum loads like 90% up and PRs. Now, we'll go into the next step, which is when should you use a weightlifting belt? Well, I would say is you shouldn't be using a weightlifting belt if you don't know how to already create this. So if you can't create your natural weightlifting belt, the weightlifting belt you're using is just a crutch and it's gonna become a problem. So first, be able to maximize your ability to expand. And once you've got that, then we can go into using a weightlifting belt. So what the weightlifting belt will do is actually create a more rigid abdomen for you, okay? So what happens is when you create pressure in your abdomen and expand, that pressure from your diaphragm is pushing into the abdominal wall, and the abdominal wall is pushing back against it, right? But if you add another abdominal wall to it, i.e. the belt, you have a more rigid cylinder, which thus increases that pressure even more. So a weightlifting belt is a good tool, but really we shouldn't use it as a crutch. We should use it for maximal type stuff. So like 80%, 90% of your max on up, and we can use it for that extra bit of stability, okay? So when we use the belt, when we set it up, we don't want to suck in for dear life and pull that sucker till we're blue in the face. We actually want to create enough space where we can breathe into the belt, especially like at the bottom of a deadlift, or so we have enough expansion in the bottom of a squat. So what I'm going to do is take 2 fingers and slide it into here, right? And when I set this up, what I want to do is push my abdomen into my fingertips here. So I'm not squeezing my abs, I'm just kind of creating like a Buddha belly like this, just pushing out. And so I'll put my fingers here, I want to push into there, okay? And so when I have some pressure into my fingers, not too loose so I can move it out, but also not too tight where it's stuck there, I want to push into my fingers. It's not going to slide out easily. And now I'm going to set that spot there and put it in. And notice where I'm at on this belt versus before. I was probably about 5 or 6 in. Now I'm only 2 holes in. All right. Now that I have that set, it's actually, when I suck it in, it's kind of loose. But when I push into it, I can feel my abdomen push into the weightlifting belt. So that way when we lift, we have enough room to be able to fully breathe and then bear down. And then also at the bottom here, we have enough pressure against the belt, but the belt is not too cinched where it's limiting our ability to expand. So there's that fine line between not too much, not too little, just right. So for me here, when I go down, this is a little loose right now, but if I breathe into it, I can fill it out, but I still have a little bit too much movement. So I'm gonna adjust it a little bit. And you know, this is kind of an old school belt. Probably wouldn't be lifting with this. We want something a little more fine tuned. But I'm gonna go down to the 3rd set of holes here. And now when I check it here, I can push my fingers against it, but I can still pull it out. It doesn't seem too loose, not too tight. I can definitely fill it out. So now I'm gonna go down and test it out. I'm gonna hinge down, set up, breathe into it, and bear down. And now here, that's where I feel a lot of my abdomen pushing out against it. So I can just feel that extra pressure pushing against it, where before I felt like it was still too loose. Now on the other hand, when it's too tight, and I say I do it here, now I can't even fill it out. This is so darn tight that I don't have enough room to fully expand. So if I go down here and set up, it's like, I can't fill that out. This feels like if my abs were strong enough, I'd make this thing pop open because it's so darn tight. So that's where we want to find that sweet spot. Not too tight, not too loose, just right, so we can maximize our natural weightlifting belt and then use the extra layer that the leather provides to your abdominal wall to maximize that pressure. All right, so to wrap this up, first and foremost, stop cinching that weightlifting belt so darn tight where you have that corset of a waist. It's not doing you any good. Number 2, learn to maximize your natural weightlifting belt. And then when you go to heavy stuff, use the weightlifting belt to help you maximize your already natural weightlifting belt. Because the moral of the story is that the more pressure you can create here in your core, the less stress and strain that's gonna go into your spine.